Susana, you want to say why Trás-os-Montes?
You know, as these things go, it was more like intuition than anything else. You know, when you choose something, even when you choose like something you want to write about, sometimes you just have a feeling and you just want to do it. And sometimes it's not very obvious why there and why exactly that, but you just something that clicks in you. But I guess it's interesting because I didn't know Trás-os-Montes. Well, I mean, Trás-os-Montes is actually quite big, of course, big for Portugal's scale, which is, of course, extremely small for Brazilian scale. But Trás-os-Montes, it's what I mean by big is that it's very diverse. So there's a part of Trás-os-Montes that is quite green, and that's a part that is closer to Porto. And that's the part that I knew better. And then there's this part which is closer to the border with Spain. And it's even further away than Porto and further away than Lisbon. And I didn't know that region well, but I did know a lot of people from Trás-os-Montes. And as Francisco mentioned, they are very particular. And I think, you know, they're particular people, they're very direct, they're very different from people from Lisbon or from Alentejo, but they're also very welcoming. So I was interested in this sort of way of being. And I knew it was deserted area. And it seemed also, I knew that the project, the healthcare project, had a very good team and was going particularly well by comparison to a project that was happening in Alentejo. And maybe Alentejo, there are so many books already about Alentejo, so maybe because of that. And also when I was a child, I did one trip to that place, to that area of Trás-os-Montes, so that part that is not as green, and it's actually more like, it's not, there are some hills, but it's not as hilly as that other part. And it's very, it has the landscape is more like brown, and there's a lot of olives like you have in the south. It's quite interesting as a place. And I had been there when I was like 10, and it was a magical with my cousins who had the part of a family that lived there. And it was a magical trip for me, where I was like being lost in the fields and imagining lots of stories there with my cousins. It was really, really a magical holiday that was cut short by the death of my great-grandmother, who was actually called Susana as well. And there was something there that it became a very mysterious place for me. I never went back there. And there was something about that magical, that joy, but then also like the contrast with this news. And I think this was the first time I was aware of death. And in fact, I actually, in some of the drafts of the book, or some of the attempts I did at writing at some point, I did try to write about that memory, but it didn't make into the book. There's a lot of stuff that gets out of the book. Sometimes I think that I could, you know, write whole new books with the stuff that didn't go into the books.